Great. Hello and welcome. I'm so glad to see y'all here. This is going to be hopefully a 30-minute or less call. I know we all have busy lives, but this is important. Um, we're talking about birth prep, and of course, birth prep starts very early. For some of you guys on the trying to conceive journey, my fertility journey, I was prepping for birth way before I conceived because it was prep as far as how do I have the healthiest eggs and how can my husband have the healthiest sperm and preparation going into the making of the baby. And then, of course, if if especially for my Joy Within Birth moms, if y'all are in there, you start the prep right away because I go through all the different trimesters, how to eat for each trimester, exercises for each trimester. But even if you're coming to this call and you're like many of you in your second trimester, third trimester, I'm hoping this recording reaches people who are due any day now and that this is helpful for you. But for this specific call, um, oh, someone just texted me about it. We are focusing on once you enter that birth window, that full term window, 37 weeks on, there are very specific things that I do personally to prepare my mind and my body for birth. A little bit different than what I had been doing the whole pregnancy. And also when I'm with a client, like a doula client, and this is kind of what triggered this call was last week. My sister-in-law is due any day now. And so she came over to the house with her husband and we did birth prep. And I was like, I wonder if people do this, if they know that there are some things that you could be doing as you get closer to having your baby that can be really, really helpful. And so that kind of sparked this inspiration of I'm going to do a 37-week on birth prep call. So what I want to show you guys, I'm actually pulling resources straight out of my digital classroom. This is Joy Within Birth is my entire library of content of education and community. So we have I'm not going to click through all this, but you can see the tabs there at the top, our community. It's a interactive way to post and ask me questions. And that's where I put all my announcements. But then if you click this classroom tab, and this is helpful for those of you that are in Joy Within Birth, where you now after this call can go find these resources and dig a little bit deeper. But hello to everyone. If you don't know me, my name is Haley Aliff. I am a second generation birth keeper. My mom was a lay midwife in the 70s and really following her, she took me to births with her as a young girl. I knew that this was my calling from a very young age. Like God totally put in our bloodline this ministry of birth work. My aunt also was a midwife, worked under Ina May. And so I have this incredible family history of really birth knowledge being passed down. And I'm also a doula. I graduated midwifery school in 2011, and I still do birth work. I just have four small kids. And so I don't do many births a month, I do one or two a month. My kids are ages 7, 5, 3, and 1. And my firstborn we adopted, and then our three biological that came after that. It's interesting because going into my own pregnancy and birth, I already knew what I believed about birth. I already knew, what had been passed down to me, but then experiencing it for myself really solidified birth can be incredibly joyful and it's not something to fear. So that is like the message that I hope that I believe God has given me to encourage women that this is really important. Birth really in so many ways prepares us for motherhood, and there's so many lessons learned throughout the birthing process and pregnancy that carries throughout life. And so I love teaching this. It's totally my passion. I don't do a lot of free Zoom calls as often, and so if you're on this, I'm glad that you took advantage of this. But I'm gonna share a little bit more about Joy Within at the end. But let me just show you because there's basically three things I want to focus on for this call. There's so many ways that we can prepare for birth, but in my mind, I like to kind of break things down into like physical preparation, mental, spiritual preparation, because it's all important, right? The way that God created our mind and our body, they're very synchronized. And so we can't just focus on one without the other. But let me just focus on the physical at first. So if you are in Joy Within Birth, I want to show you where this is. You'll click the classroom tab, and then you will scroll down to where you see Joy Within Birth, which is module 4. And I just want to show you there's 2 drop downs. Okay. So when you get into the modules, these are all these short videos. They're all like 5 to 10 minutes, and you can see what all is included here. But if you click on the module 4 or additional resources under any module, that's where you'll find even more. And so I'm going to click down here. It says cervical prep. Now, I want to be careful with this because this is not me coming to you as a medical practitioner saying, do these things. This is what I personally do, my own research. This is what I've done to prep for each of my births. If there's anything in here that you're not sure about, like take it to your OB or midwife, do your own research and see if these are good options for you. So I don't, some of these things even are controversial, even down to red raspberry leaf tea, believe it or not. But this is how I prepared my cervix for labor. So fun fact, I never had any vaginal exams in pregnancy or birth. I didn't need one. There are definitely times where it can be helpful and give helpful information. However, I'm a trained midwife, so I could check my own cervix. And so I knew before labor started that I was 4 to 5 centimeters just sitting before active labor started, which really made a difference because none of my births have been over 4 hours as far as active labor goes. I never count like early labor stuff. And remember, if you're not familiar, 4 to 5 centimeters on is where active labor really starts. So I was already sitting there, and I do believe that a lot of it was because of the things that I did. And so I'm just going to kind of walk through this little sheet right here. And if you comment in the chat your email address and you're not in Joy Within Birth and you want me to send you this file, I can do that because this file has links where you can find these different things I'm going to talk about. Okay, so the first thing on here, I said this is my trusty Open the Cervix playbook. And again, I don't do any of this prior to 37 weeks. I don't want labor to start before it's time. I mentioned here the importance of pelvic floor therapy. I cannot recommend that enough. If you can find a good practitioner, they can help you with pushing practice, figuring out what positions you're most relaxed in, because unlike the birth culture that you probably see in like Hollywood where people are straining to push, the correct way to push is actually to soften and open and relax. And that's how pushing is faster. And so part of my work in pelvic floor in my pregnancies is figuring out what are the positions I'm the most soft and relaxed in, because that's actually going to get the baby out. Now, then the second thing on here are 2 supplements I took. Now, these were recommended to me by my midwife. So this is where personal care kicks in, because you might be someone who has a really active cervix. And if you were to take some of these things at 37, 38 weeks, you might get contractions. And then that would be a sign that, hey, this is a little too soon for you. Maybe start these closer to your due date type of thing. So I do have a link on here. It's just an Amazon like wish list that can show you these products. If you can find them locally, great. But the 2 supplements I take, and the labels do recommend 37, 38 weeks, was one called Gentle Birth Tincture. I'll show you what that looks like. And there's another one called Birth Prep, and that's an herbal capsule. Now, I never took them together because the ingredients are very similar. They do contain things like blue cohosh, which if you know anything about that can start labor, that can start contractions. So again, like research, proceed with caution. But I would either do the tincture or the herbal capsule. I never did both together. So Mountain Meadow Herbs makes this Gentle Birth tincture that is really known for helping women have a faster labor. And that's because the ingredients in it strengthen your uterus. The stronger the muscles of your uterus are, the more productive your contractions are, the faster labor is, right? I have in here something called organic 3rd trimester tea, which I want to say is nettle, red raspberry, oat straw, alfalfa. Alfalfa is really high in vitamin K, which is great for that's your blood clotting factor. So something you want for birth, but also can be passed through the baby via your breast milk. So if you're on the fence about the vitamin K shot, that's something you can actually supplement. Baby can get through your breast milk. I drink that mixture. If you've ever heard of it, it's called Nora. It just stands for those four herbs. I take that throughout my entire pregnancy and I start slow. And by 37 weeks, I'm drinking about a gallon a day. I make a big batch. And while it's still hot, I add honey, raw local honey, and I let it steep for a long time because herbs, the longer you steep, the stronger they are. And then the thing with like making herbal tea like that is you just want to consume the amount that you're going to drink in 24 hours. The herbs kind of start losing their medicinal benefits after that. So the last thing here you'll see is, and I love this, I think it's a great product. It's been around forever, but it's called Christopher's Original Birth Prep Formula, Dr. Christopher, and that's an herbal blend. Let me go back to my thing real quick. So I start taking those according to the label. And of course, like I said, drinking my Nora tea, my red raspberry tea every day. I know when I was pregnant with my first, that was like my midwife's main, tip was like, look, I think this is wonderful to strengthen your uterus throughout your entire pregnancy. But if you drink it and you immediately get Braxton Hicks, don't do it, or dilute it, or don't drink it every day, or discontinue until third trimester. So I never had any sort of like, I never thought my body was going into labor from the red raspberry tea, but everybody's different. But of course, when you're in your birth window, you want to encourage that. And so red raspberry leaf tea. The next thing I have on here is something that I personally researched. I don't think anyone told me to do this, but I was taking papaya chewable enzymes just for acid reflux, heartburn type of thing, and then learned later that it actually softens the cervix. And so I don't recommend people take, and this isn't for every enzyme, that's specifically papaya. I don't recommend that type of enzyme throughout your whole pregnancy, but definitely at your birth window, why not? So soften your cervix with some papaya chewable enzymes. Okay, another thing on here. Can you all see my as I'm scrolling? Can you all see all this? The next thing on here is controversial. And so again, ask your practitioner if they recommend this for you. But I would start around 38 weeks popping with like a little sterile needle. You can pop open a capsule of evening primrose oil. You can find that really everywhere. I don't even think it's over the counter at like Walgreens, but I never took it orally. I would pop it open and I would put it vaginally. And what I would do is pair this. My husband would do some perineal massaging, which was recommended by our pelvic floor therapist. And this, I'm not going to get deep into this right now, but I'll just say that the perineal massage exercise is not necessarily for stretching your skin. It's not going to make your skin more supple. That's more based off of your food and your hydration and your nutrients. That translates more to skin stretchability. But it was more of a mind association where he would do certain pressure points, and it would remind me, train my brain that when I feel pressure there, I soften and relax. Because naturally, when you feel pressure on your perineum, your natural instinct is to tighten and to kind of suck in. So this is obviously birth prep, because when the baby's there, when the baby's knocking on your perineum and you feel pressure, you want to open and soften and relax. And so we would use evening primrose starting at 38 weeks on, and just a few times a week, we would do this kind of mind association massage practice. Okay, the next thing I did, this was something I did at my due date, and this was directed by my naturopathic doctor, and I trust her. She knows my genetics. I've worked with her for over 10 years. She's actually the professor whose school I'm in right now. I'm in naturopathic doctor school with her. So she recommended on my due date to put some water in my belly button, and then I would do 1 drop of each of these oils. So I use Young Living. I did lavender, clary sage, rose, jasmine, and frankincense. And all of those have different effects on your uterus, your stress, and even softening the cervix. And so at my due date, I did that regimen, and I continued to do that until baby came. And I just want to encourage you too, you guys, even doing all this, my first two babies didn't come till 41 weeks. So this is not like, I'm not telling you how to force labor. Okay. I'm telling you how to prepare your body for labor and your cervix for being soft and supple. The next thing I have on here is something I highly recommend. If you can find a Webster certified chiropractor, so someone who's trained in pregnancy, this is a really wonderful way to get your baby in the best position because it's going to help open up your hips, help with any tension and tight ligaments, round ligaments that you might have, and really help baby be able to sink into the most optimal position. And most optimal position is head down, or obviously head down vertex, but also anterior. And so that is where the baby's back is aligned on your belly. You don't want a posterior position, which is where baby's back is along your back. Not only is that painful, you'll feel that in labor. That's where people talk about having back labor. It slows down labor. It even can kind of prevent, if your body's trying to go into labor positioning, can delay that. And so Webster technique, and we're gonna talk about physical exercises too, is just a great thing to do. And when I was at 38 weeks, I was going like twice a week to just make sure that everything was loose and soft. Of course, I put on here that on my due date, I booked a prenatal massage, and I would bring my clary sage oil and say, can you incorporate this? And definitely do my feet and definitely do my ankles. I didn't do any of that before my due date. But at that point, I'm like, if baby's ready, this will encourage it. It's not going to force it. It's not going to make labor happen before baby's ready, but it is, if my body is ready, it's kind of the nudge that it needs. Another way to incorporate clary sage oil, and this is an oil I don't even recommend in pregnancy prior to being full term, is just take a bath with Epsom salts. I put like 5 drops in the bath and just soak in there. I know for my first labor, when my water broke before contraction started, I made a capsule of olive oil and clary sage and just took it internally. So there's a lot of ways you can incorporate this oil. Clary sage definitely strengthens contractions and helps with the onset of rhythmic contractions. And another way you can do it, an even gentler but still very powerful therapeutic way, is just diffusing it. And so I have like a great labor blend where I do clary sage. If you've never smelled it, it's very earthy, but I like to put joy oil in there, which is more floral, and it's just a beautiful smell. Maybe some peppermint for some energy. And then, of course, the next thing on here is moving your body. Walking is truly the best daily exercise for you for so many reasons, not just circulation, but also keeping inflammation down. Again, optimal fetal positioning, making sure everything is loose and not tight. At the end of pregnancy, after my due date, I truly felt like I could just walk baby out. Like if I just walked a couple miles, there was so much pressure and baby was so low that you can truly encourage things along just by doing this one exercise. And then last but not least, semen is the best cervical softener. My midwife always said, we got the baby in, we'll get the baby out. But this is fun fact. If you didn't know this, in the hospital, there's a very common induction drug that's offered for induction, and it's Cervidil or dinoprostone. And this is mimicking semen as a synthetic hormone prostaglandin. It does have side effects. It's not something that I would choose to do unless I absolutely had to encourage labor for some reason, like some medical reason. But if possible, your husband can help with this part. And then the last things I put on here, I just said when labor starts, I take 2 Life9 probiotic pills, and I do that. Those are just my probiotic capsules to soften stool, to help for both a quicker labor and to help move things. Because if your gut is flowing, and this is why people who are trying to get themselves into labor will eat like spicy foods, or I'm not going to name herbal drinks, but there's certain herbs that people take to stimulate their bowels. That's because you can also stimulate contractions that way. But I just double dosed my probiotic, and also to make sure that post birth I could have soft stool. You can also do fiber for that. Last but not least, there are some foods that you can eat that actually do have an effect on softening the cervix. Pineapple is one of those. Eggplant is one of those. And dates is one of those. I loved making a date shake at the end of pregnancy. I'm going to click this and see what it brings us to. This is just a PubMed study showing how the effect of dates in late pregnancy can actually affect the duration of labor and quicken it. Crazy, right? Okay, so I'm going to get out of this cervix prep plan again. If you want this, if you're not in Joy Within Birth, I'm happy to email this to you. You just put your email. If you are in Joy Within Birth, I found this under module 4 under additional resources. It's just right there, cervical prep. There's also things in here like right below labor snacks that I recommend. My favorite recipe for Labor Aid, which is basically like an organic Gatorade full of minerals and electrolytes. I drink that. I start making that real close to my due date and just continue to make it so that it's fresh for labor. And then it's also really great to have postpartum. Let me see what birth positions to practice takes us to. This is our YouTube video. Oop, did not mean to do that. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. Hopefully I didn't mess up those slides. Can y'all still see me changing these because something wonky just happened? Yes, Stephanie. Joy. So you can go to joywithinbirth.com. I do have about twice a year I'll offer a discount code because I think it's worth every penny. Once you're in, you have lifetime access. And so it's not something you have to repurchase for each baby and each pregnancy. I have a lot of people in here too that are not even pregnant yet, that are just, I have a fertility module about how to prep for pregnancy. But then, of course, once they're pregnant, they're just already in. But about twice a year, I offer a discount code, and I have one that I really wanted to offer just to live listeners today. But because I have like a handful of people that are like, I can't make that time frame, but I want to be on the call, I am recording this. So the code is February. So if you go to joywithinbirth.com and put in the code February, you can get a discount, and that's going to end tomorrow. We have 2 days left of February. That's crazy. Okay, let me show you the next thing here. So we're going to do a little bit more physical, and then we're going to get into the mental and then we'll end the call. So module 2 is called Holistic Pregnancy. Okay. Again, going through the videos, you can see there's all sorts of goodies in here. But if you click on additional resources, I'm going to scroll all the way down to 3rd trimester prenatal exercises. Okay. Because that's what we're talking about here is our 3rd trimester end of pregnancy. So of course, walking is the very first thing I have on here because that is, in my opinion, the most important exercise you can do. If you do nothing except walking every day, that is great. Of course, there's other things you can do. So these are all the point of all of these, and these are different than your other trimester exercises. These are for optimal fetal positioning, right? Getting baby anterior, head down. That way, when labor starts, it's efficient, it's faster. We're not working against any malposition. Maternal positioning is basically like sitting on the floor, cross-legged or Indian style, which is great for softening your hip flexors and opening your hips. The next one I have on here that I actually want to show you a video of, if I can figure out how to show this Instagram reel, is called forward leaning inversion. This is not something that I recommend to people until the very end for several reasons, but this is a great one for malposition if baby is potentially posterior or even breech. So the premise behind this is we're giving baby an extreme way to get out of the pelvis. And so this I'm going to show a video, but this looks like putting your knees on like maybe your couch or your bed. And then I don't ever do this one by myself because just in case you get lightheaded with blood flow and things like that, I always have my husband or my sister or somebody helping me with this. But your elbows are on the ground. And so you just like put a pillow or a yoga mat on the ground and you hold it for about 45 seconds. So the idea is you're pulling baby out of the pelvis. And then when you sit back up, you walk around a little bit. Maybe if you have access to a curb or stairs, which is going to help shift your pelvis side to side. Now baby can rearrange and get back into the pelvis in a more optimal way. And so forward leaning inversions are one of the number one things I recommend for people at the end of pregnancy. whose babies are breech and they really need to help flip and turn that baby. I'm going to show you a video and let me just walk through each of these. Dynamic motion is basically good posture, which I'm not doing right now because I'm trying to get closer to the screen. But if you have a birth ball, that is the best way to practice that good posture, because think about your belly as like a hammock. If you sit at like a desk all day or you do a lot of car time, if you're constantly leaned over, baby's going to assume the position where there's the most room. And so if you're leaning over like this a lot with bad posture, baby is going to sink into that spot. And so we want to have that good posture. The next one is one of my favorite, and I'm going to show you a video on this too. It's called the jiggle, but I call it shaking the apples. This one is one you can do at any point in pregnancy, but definitely at the end with something called a rebozo. This is going to really help any tension in your lower back if you're struggling with like sciatic, any nerve issues, round ligament pains. If you just feel tight and you need loosening, this to me is like a prenatal massage. So you're going to have somebody with a rebozo. If you don't have a rebozo, they have beautiful ones on Etsy, but like a sheet, a thin blanket, and you're going to get on hands and knees. You could also hug a ball if you want to. And this is where someone is applying pressure on your lower back with this blanket and jiggling side to side. It feels amazing. I use this in labor. I don't do it during contractions. I do it between contractions, but this is really great for loosening and softening all the muscles of the pelvic floor. And so remember, when we're soft and relaxed, baby has more room to descend and more room to come out and to get into a good position. So this is great for so many reasons. The video I'm going to show you also is going to show something called rebozo sifting. So like, for instance, last week when I was doing that birth prep with my sister-in-law, she was newly 38 weeks. And so I was like, I'm not doing rebozo sifting on you quite yet. I'm going to wait a little bit longer. I think I'm going to go over to her house and do it tonight. But rebozo sifting is an incredible tool also for helping baby navigate, move, relaxing your muscles. But this is actually where the rebozo is like a hammock on your belly and your hands and knees. And it's kind of a back and forth motion. When I was 39 and 5, I knew my body, with this was my second biological harvest. I knew my body was ready for labor. And I was like dealing with some emotional stuff, fears I needed to release. But I had my sisters come over and my little sister did rebozo sifting on my belly. It's really hard to do that one on yourself. So you do need some help. And 30 minutes later, my water broke. And I texted her. I was like, thank you for putting me into labor. It's exactly what I needed. And then the last one that you'll see on here is something called side lying release. So I want y'all to notice this. Like if you're in Joy Within Birth, these are links. Like you click these are each a video explaining these, because I sometimes think explaining a position is not that easy. Like we need to see what this is supposed to look like. Side lying release is another amazing one to do at the end of pregnancy. I'm going to try and pull up. This is an Instagram reel that I did. And y'all just tell me if you're able to see this. Just give me a minute. Just realized I closed out my text messages. And you'll be able to see what side lying release looks like. Side lying release is not, I wouldn't say it's like super comfortable. It's, again, something that you really can't do by yourself, because the whole point of it is like, if you're laying on your left side on the very edge of your couch or the very edge of your bed, you want your right side to just hang loose, almost like your knee is trying to touch the ground. So it's an extreme twist. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So whenever my husband or my sisters do this with me, they're really holding me from falling off the bed. They're holding my hips so that I can dangle that leg. So y'all let me know. I'm going to play this video. I'm like, where's my Zoom chat? And tell me if you can see and hear this fine. Hang on, it hasn't started yet. Okay, this is your first one. This is your lunges, your technique for labor during. Whoops. Sorry, give it a second. And curb walking. This is your hip
Just
opener.
needs to descend farther into the pelvis or if labor is stalling out. The abdominal lift and tuck is one of the most effective early labor techniques for engaging baby in the pelvis and through the pelvic rim. Figure eights just help loosen the round ligaments. This spinning babies technique creates room in the lower uterus as it opens the angle of the symphysis away from the spine and widens the pelvic inlet more. This helps to soften the pelvis, especially if you're having muscle spasms in labor or just need to make room for the baby.
Okay.
Let's talk about 4 positions for stalled out labor or just general optimal fetal positioning. The lunge opens the mid pelvis. It's a great technique for labor during a contraction if baby is OP, asynclitic, or just needs to descend farther into the pelvis or if labor is stalling out. The abdominal lift and tuck is one of the most effective early labor techniques for engaging baby in the pelvis and through the pelvic rim. Figure eights just help loosen the round ligaments. This spinning babies technique creates room in the lower uterus as it opens the angle of the symphysis away from the spine and widens the pelvic inlet more. This helps to soften the pelvis, especially if you're having muscle spasms in labor or just need to make room for the baby.
Okay. I had no way of checking y'all's chat, but could everyone see those videos? If not, I can send it to you. This is just an Instagram reel showing each of those, but let me click one more video that's going to really help you see the jiggle, the shaking of the apples, and the belly lifting. Sorry, belly sifting. And this is from one of my favorite websites called Spinning Babies. If you don't know about Spinning Babies, check it out because it's all for optimal fetal positioning. If you're dealing with breech or malposition, and they have great videos and tutorials on there.
Today we're going to be introducing you to some exercises that you can do with the rebozo. A rebozo is a beautiful shawl that is traditionally from Mexico and other Latin American countries. The rebozo can be used to do just like some of the exercises that we'll be showing you today, but also to hold your baby in it. You can also use it for a nursing cover and just as a warm shawl for you as you hold your baby. And so the exercise that we'll be doing with the rebozo are going to be focused around the pelvis to help release any fascia and any tight muscles around the glutes, but also we'll show you how we're going to be using the rebozo in the front of the mama's belly. And so this is our beautiful model, Yvonne, and Dr. Lindsay is going to show you the first one, which is what we like to call the little baby hammock, a little baby cradle. Yvonne is just going to gently relax her belly into the rebozo, like if the baby is just being cradled in a hammock.
I'm just making sure that the shawl, the rebozo, is around her entire belly. So make sure that it's kind of around, even underneath the belly too. And so when you're doing this with your partner, you want to make sure that when you start, you lift a little bit. Make sure you're squatting, so you're helping and saving your back. And then you're just moving just gently back and forth, like you're rocking the baby. And you can do this up to 2 minutes, about 2 minutes daily.
Feels so good. This is a great one.
This next one is the apple tree shake. So we like to call you're going to shake those hips like you're shaking an apple tree. And so you just wrap the whole rebozo around the hips. And what you want to always make sure, just like Dr. Lindsay's doing, is that the fabric is basically covering her whole, the hips and the glutes, but also as she holds on, that you are also gently squeezing into the hips a little bit. You don't want the fabric to just be moving around. You actually want to get a nice grip around the hips, and then you'll go and shake the apple tree really fast. And so here with the apple tree shake, it is really great for a lot of that low back tension, a lot of that tightness in the piriformis. and to just release a lot of that tightness as, you know, baby is growing, your belly is shifting, gravity you know, is taking a little toll and a pull on your low back. The apple tree shade is going to be so comfortable for you. And both of these exercises that we just showed you right now are great exercises that you can integrate throughout the whole pregnancy. They're very safe, they're very gentle. And then especially you can use them during labor, during early labor, just to get mama, give her more comfort. And even during active labor, if you feel that, you know, contractions have started to become a little bit more spread out and you want to give your body a rest and kind of like release some of that tension, these two great Rebozo exercises are great to include into your birthing plan.
All right. Hopefully those videos helped. I feel like if you incorporated just a couple of the exercises mentioned, but shaking the apples, walking, curb walking, side lying release, that is going to be an amazing birth prep regimen for you because it's going to keep everything soft, loose, and that's the most conducive to a faster labor and for baby getting in the best position. Then the last part that I want to show you guys for this call, I'm so sorry this went longer than expected. The last part here, I'm actually going to go back into the classroom and I'm clicking on probably my favorite birth prep module, which is module 3, Nourish Your Mind. And I'm actually just going to play this video. It's short. It's called Visualizing Your Joy-Filled Birth. So we've talked in this call about 37 weeks on, what you can do to soften your cervix, strengthen your uterus, exercises that you can do to help baby get in the best position. And now probably the cherry on top or the missing piece of the puzzle for a lot of women is how we can actually prepare our mind. And so this is something that I have put to the test now 3 times. And I'm like, this is not coincidence. This is powerful. This is how God created our mind and our body to be synced. And so this is something I'm going to share with you straight from Joy Within Birth of what I do starting at 37 weeks until baby comes. And I do this a couple of times a week. So I'm going to click this last video and then we'll, I'll take any questions and then we'll end the call. Oops, let's start it from the beginning.
Size of it.
And I'm very pregnant in this video with Jude.
So in this video, we are going to talk about how to visualize your joy-filled birth. This is one of the keys to having a joy-filled birth. This is something that I really bank on and will just attest that it has really made a huge difference in my labors. Now, I like to say it this way: visualize your joy-filled birth with open hands. So we're going to talk about that. I want to read this quote to you from Dr. Caroline Leaf from her book, Switch on Your Brain. It says, as we think, we change the physical nature of our brain. As we consciously direct our thinking, we can write out toxic patterns of thinking and replace them with healthy thoughts. This is really powerful, you guys, because our brain, the more we focus on something, the more we dwell and we think about something, which this is a biblical concept too, we can actually change the nature of our brain. So if you have been wired to have toxic thoughts surrounding birth, surrounding pregnancy, maybe even surrounding motherhood, this is our time in our visualization where we are rewiring these pathways. So we're just going to focus on birth right now. But this is something that I started doing with my first biological child, Koa. And I would start around 36 weeks picturing every detail of his birth. And I'm going to walk you through this. And lo and behold, his birth was almost identical to what I visualized, minus the time of day. So then I did it again for my second biological harvest. And then I'm going to tell you about hers too. So you guys, for natural birth, what we're doing in this course is we are preparing mentally. And we're doing that, and we should do that just as much, if not more, than we do physically. So yes, we can practice positions. We can physically exercise and be strong and be healthy, and that is very important. We talked a lot about eating healthy, right?
but mentally, we're exercising our mental muscles right now. So here's how it works. Starting at 36, 37 weeks, I want you to commit to a weekly visualization session, okay? So I would aim for 2 to 3 times a week. I would get into my bathtub, I'd put my kids to bed, I would set the mood, and I was trying to simulate birth. So I'd put Epsom salts in my bath, I'd put calming essential oils, I'd turn on worship music. I have my labor playlist, so I would be putting that on. I'd turn the lights off, I'd light some beeswax candles, light my diffuser, and excuse me, I wanted to emulate exactly what I was going to do when labor began. So when labor started, I knew this is what I'm going to start with. This is where I go. This is my relaxation place. So I would always start this process by just laying hands over my womb, connecting with my baby. And especially if you have other kids, you know that that's really important to do. I mean, it's important no matter what, but when you're busy and you just don't really think all day about your baby, to have this moment is so sweet. And I would just thank God for this baby. Gratitude is a beautiful place to begin a birth. And so I always start off this visualization exercise with gratitude. I would feel my body relax and de-stress in the bath. And then I would invite God into this exercise of visualization. And one of the best tools I used was the Christian Hypnobirthing app. It was super powerful. I would put it on before I even got into the visualization and just kind of get my mindset there. And y'all, all of these steps I'm telling you in this practice is what I actually did when labor started too. So by the time labor started, it didn't feel brand new. It was like, I've been here before. I've done this. I've been rehearsing for this, just as if you were playing a sport or training for something, right? I can't imagine showing up to like a volleyball match having not practiced all week. And so starting at like 36 weeks of practice is it's gonna feel so familiar to you when your labor starts. So here's how you're gonna visualize your dream birth. I want you to visualize every detail of your dream birth that you can possibly think of. This might be hard at first. You might not know where to start, but I promise it's going to get easier with practice. So yes, the first time it might be even awkward. It might be like, I don't know what to picture. So I'm going to give you some questions that you can really start with to create this visualization basis. So what time of day is it when labor starts? Where are you? Who's around you? What are you doing when labor starts? What are you listening to? What are you wearing? What did you eat? What are you eating? Visualize yourself happy, excited, and joyful, right? Because when labor starts, that's what you want to be. You don't want to be nervous. You don't want to be scared. So visualize labor starting and all the excitement and joy that you feel. Now, what do you do when active labor kicks in? Where are you? Are you visualizing yourself enjoying it? Are you smiling? What kind of arrangements have you set up? Are you calling people to care for your other children if you have them, or are your other children there? If your husband's at work, are you calling him? Is it the daytime? When are you letting your birth team know? Who is your birth team? Imagine kind of the perfect scenario that you can think of when everyone arrives exactly when they need to. No one's arriving too early. You're not calling too many people too soon, but you're visualizing all these aspects, okay? You're visualizing yourself laboring in your home or your place of birth. So active labor is typically when you're going to head to wherever you're going to be birthing, right? So visualize yourself getting to your birthplace if you are planning on leaving the home, and look at yourself. What's your demeanor? What is the mood of the room? What music is playing in the background? What essential oils do you have diffusing? I want you to visualize yourself getting closer and closer to transition. So you're visualizing labor. It's a beautiful thing. See the joy on you and your partner's faces as you both realize you're getting closer to meeting your baby, because that's what transition means, right? When you do feel the urge to push, where are you? What position are you pushing in? Who's near you? What's the expression on your face? How do you feel? Are you excited? Are you joyful? So you guys, you can take this visualization exercise even into immediate postpartum. You can visualize yourself holding your baby to your chest, seeing yourself feeling all the feels, laughing. Are you crying? Are you smiling? Are you rejoicing? Are you breathing deep breaths? Just visualize everyone in the room sharing this moment with you.
And picture the room. Where are you? Where did you deliver? Are you in the tub? Are you in a bed? What are you wearing? Visualize your first time latching your baby and nursing for the first time. Visualize the birthing of your placenta. You can literally take this as far as you want to. So what I want to just explain for a moment is what I mean by visualizing with open hands, because this is where I invite the Lord into this entire process. I know that I ultimately am not in control, and I don't want to be. I want the Lord to be. I trust him with my life story more than I do with my own plans. And so my heart song and my prayer is something like this. It's, God, here is my desire. If this lines up with your will, this vision that I have, then I believe it's going to happen. So you said, ask and it will be given. So Father, will you put your handprint over this vision, over this birth? Will you guide me here? Is this what you want too? Father, at the end of the day, I trust you and I give you complete control to write this story whatever way you want to. So Abba, this is my vision. I claim it and I believe it's going to happen. I hold it with open hands. You have permission to do anything you want to do with it. So I am at a place where I am at peace, no matter what happens. I'm not holding on to this vision with a tight, fisted, like clinch, to where if things don't go exactly how I wanted them to, I'm going to have disappointment. That's not true at all. I am definitely visualizing in faith, but I'm asking the Lord to also just have free reign, right? So I think it's a really important piece that we have this open hand posture, because it affects the posture of our heart. When we hold things with the clenched fist, and this is such a beautiful lesson, y'all, because this is not just a lesson for labor and birth. This is a life lesson with our prayer requests, our dreams, our hopes, our goals, right? When we hold things with a clenched fist, our life plans, we do so from a place of fear. And it's not a good release of control. It's not surrender. It's not trust. It's fear, right? And fear does not belong at a joy-filled birth. Fear and joy cannot coexist at the birth, right? So if my goal is joy in birth, and it is, more than it is pain-free, my goal is joy at a birth. If my goal is joy, then I have to release my worries. I have to release my concerns. I have to release my false sense of control, right? So the beautiful thing here is that this lesson is going to carry us through so many aspects of life, you guys. I love natural birth for this reason. It's refining, it's faith building, it's character building. Lessons you're learning right now and through your birth are going to carry you into motherhood. It's absolutely beautiful and transformative. So a little bit of my personal story. The birth of my son and the birth of my youngest daughter were almost identical in how they played out. I'm not even kidding. They both were almost exactly how I envisioned them, minus the time of day. For the birth of my daughter, though, I want to mention there was a part of my vision that I did not write. So one night, the Lord met me mid-session and directed it. And this is maybe like my third time visualizing her labor. And I was kind of picturing the same procession. And I was in the middle of visualizing myself having a sunset birth, which ended up being sunrise birth in real life. And in the vision, I was getting ready to push. I saw myself getting into the birth tub. And then all of a sudden, a thunderstorm took place. And I heard the thunder. I saw the rain through the window in my vision. And I didn't come up with this. This isn't my script. This is just what was happening in my mind. And so I just knew this was the Lord. And I was like, he's intervening in this session. So I switched gears. And instead of visualizing the birth tub in my bedroom, which is where I had been visualizing it because that's where I birthed my son, and I went ahead and I saw myself getting into a tub outdoors on my back porch because I wanted to enjoy the storm. So this third session just completely changed my plans. And then after that, each time I went to visualize my birth, I would bring that detail to the vision. So I started getting really excited. I shared this with my husband, my midwife, and a few close friends, and just explaining like, hey, I think in faith, I'm going to put my birth tub outside because the Lord showed me a beautiful thunderstorm. And the Lord knows thunder to me and rain is so relaxing. So everyone was encouraging. A few of them reminded me, okay, like, I love that you had that, but, hold that detail with open hands because she's due in the middle of summer, in the middle of August in Southern Louisiana. So I don't want you to be like way too hot and miserable. Not really conducive to an outdoor birth, right? She came August 20th. And if you're in the South, you know. So I kept reminding them, like, look, I didn't come up with this. God did. So I'm just going to have faith that it's going to happen. But here's the thing. I'm not going to be dumb. If I'm too hot, I'm not going to do it, right? I'm going to labor. If it's the middle of the day, I'm not going to do it. Like, it's okay. It's just a detail that if it works out, that's so cool. But again, open hands, right? So in faith, I did prepare. I had fans outside ready to go. Even the morning that my water broke at night, but that morning my dad came by. He calls me Joy. That's my middle name. He's dropping off all these fans. Joy, I just don't want you to be disappointed if this doesn't work out. It's very hot today. I'm like, Dad, it's okay. It's whatever happens, it's going to be great. It's whatever. So lo and behold, y'all, on the night my water broke, a cold front, an unexpected, unexplained cold front came in. It was 65 degrees outside on August 20th. As soon as I felt the urge to push, I got into the birth tub on the back porch. My sister had set up candles everywhere. It was lovely. As soon as I felt the urge to push, I heard thunder crack, and y'all, I'm bawling, crying. Everyone who's there that knew my vision is bawling, crying. I can hear them in the background, and later looking at birth videos, I can listen to them saying, it's just like the vision. Like, they were like, this is crazy. So rain poured down as my daughter was born, exactly as I had envisioned. It only rained for 1 hour that whole night, and we never even had to use the fans that we had put out. And that 1 hour was the time that I was in the birth tub. So I'm like teary-eyed thinking about it, because I share my personal story to encourage you in this practice. If my birth hadn't gone according to that vision, I would have still had joy, because remember, I held it loosely with open hands. But also, I prayed, I believed, I prepared for it, and that's the best that I could do. And same goes for you. If you practice visualization, by the time labor starts, you're going to feel so prepared. Even for my first one, I felt like I had been here, done this before, even though it was my first birth, right? I want you to feel that. I want you to feel like you've already lived it. I want you to feel prepared. There's no fear of the unknown, because everything felt familiar. And so I'm so excited for you to experience this practice. Not only is it relaxing, but you're going to start this process of rewiring your brain. And visualization really helps to tap you into the way God wired you. Go read Proverbs 27:3. Remember, when your brain thinks it, your body believes it. 36, 37 weeks, this is where you want to start committing to it 2 to 3 times a week. Oils that I use for mindset, there's a few, but release, hope, surrender, believe, build your dream. These are all great essential oils for things like this. And so guys, in the next video, I'm going to tell you about one final key for a joy-filled birth. We are going to talk about how and what it looks like to invite the Holy Spirit in. So we'll see you in the next video.
Oh my gosh, that got me. I was like, am I pregnant? Why am I crying at my own story? But it's so powerful, and it's such a special time that you guys are entering into, where you are, it's so spiritual, and it should be. And I think that's why the enemy wants to scare us into numbing ourselves and not fully experiencing birth, because the enemy knows it's transformative. But this is God's design, and it's so beautiful. And I'm so excited for you guys. I have a little bit of FOMO. I love birth. I love pregnancy. Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's labor. But it's incredible. It's transformative, the closeness with the Lord that I feel. So I don't know what just struck me listening to that, because that's my story. I've told it so many times, but I'm just like always in awe of how much he cares. And when you bring birth to him and you partner with him, like, you will not be disappointed. So I hope this was helpful. It's a whole hour. Really hard to keep a conversation like this short, though, because there's so much that you can do to really walk into labor confident and ready. And it's not just physical, it's also spiritual, it's also emotional. So does anyone have a question? I think I went through the chat just now and answered everyone's questions about labor playlist, clary sage, anything else, placenta questions. So I see you guys you dropped your email in the chat. So yeah, I'm going to send, and if you're listening to this recording and you want access to, let's see, I said I was going to send the cervical prep document, exercise video, labor playlist, and the recording. You can email me at joywithinbirth@gmail.com, or you can message me on Instagram. If you join our Joy Within Birth community, I would be honored to have you. I have a discount code February that is literally good for the next 2 days. But I will happily share this recording with anyone. Ooh, good question. What oils should I get to prepare birth prep oils list? I know I have this written down, but like off the top of my head, definitely Valor. Valor is the one for confidence. This is a whole class in and of itself. Like if you are not familiar with how oils could possibly affect your brain and your emotions through your smell, it's a whole science. But Valor is one that I definitely whip out during transition. Transition is that time where you start to go, I'm not sure if I can do this. This feels really intense. And so with Valor, also just no fear and affirmations, peppermint for so many reasons, for energy, for nausea, for when baby's really low and you need to pee and you just drop a drop of peppermint in the toilet and sit on it. Release oil is one for dealing with like subconscious fears, or just if you are emotionally feeling stuck in your labor, whatever that looks like. Release brings these things out. I always cry when I smell release. It's a wild physiological response, but I use that one religiously. Clary sage to help encourage your contractions and make sure that they are strong and productive. And so that is just a few. I actually have a whole document, like I can include this in our email, of how to use certain certain oils in labor. Geranium is another one that's really great for encouraging contractions, making sure contractions are productive and consistent. Personally, as a birth worker, helichrysum is always in my birth bag. I use this when a mom's pushing, I just put a drop on her lower back. If you're in the tub, then I just put a drop on the bottom of the feet after she gets out the tub, and that's going to help with bleeding. I also have used that for baby. Baby oils that we use almost immediately, and like for my babies, once they're born, is we anoint with frankincense and myrrh, and we just do a drop on the bottom of the feet or the belly button or the crown of the head. They're both very gentle oils, very, very gentle. Of course, you can always dilute. Yes, liquid stitches. Exactly. That's helichrysum. Joy is one of my most favorite. I mean, it's like a perfume for me, but like definitely something that I diffuse during labor. I'll direct inhale it, like put it on my hands and just sniff it. And then also that's a great one for postpartum to kind of help prevent postpartum blues and bonding. Gentle Babies oil is another one for postpartum. So I don't want to like overwhelm you with so many. There's another one called Deep Relief that I use on my lower back in labor if I'm having any tension, or of course, if you're having any back labor. Great question. Anybody else have one? Clariderm spray for postpartum, for every time you use the restroom, spraying down there for healing. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for your time and sticking it out with me. I hope this was helpful. I am praying for each of you. Please reach out if you have any questions. All right, y'all have a great day. Bye.